Some of us are outwardly successful, but inwardly feel unhappy and living a life lacking in purpose and meaning. The Necktie and the Jaguar by Carl Greer can help you discover what's important to you and how to go for it. For more information or to purchase the book, visit carlgreer.com. That's CarlGreer.com. A passionate instigator and dynamic problem solver, Dr. Kevin Ross Emery, the host of the Dr. Kevin Radio Show, will be taking you outside the box, behind the curtain, and identifying the load of BS we are fed every day. And now, Dr. Kevin.
Hello and welcome to the Dr. Kevin Show here on OMTimes, where we're changing the world. Wait for it. One ohm at a time. So, in the great mystery of life, there seemed to be a series of events that we needed to pre-record this week's episode. So there is going to be no calling in to ask Rob or myself questions on this month's planetary influences. But we want to welcome you to the Planetary Influences show that we do once a month here on the Dr. Kevin Show, as we bring in our astrologer, Rob Stewart from innercenter.org, and he shares with us what is going on, what in the universe is going on with the world today, astrologically speaking, of course. Rob, welcome.
Thanks, Dr. Kevin. Yeah, thanks for having me. And this pre-recorded session here.
You know, you just learn how to make things work, and sometimes emergencies happen, and hopefully the people that normally tune in on us, because we're actually recording this on the date that we would normally be live on air, but there was problems on the studio's end, and we'll leave it at that. So we're still going to go as if you were hearing this, not on Thanksgiving Day, which is the day it will be released, but on the Thursday before Thanksgiving. So we're going to pick it up and run with it from there. But before we get started with the astrology, so Rob, how are you these days? What's up and what's going on?
Yeah, I'm doing pretty well. It's hard to believe it's November, almost Thanksgiving. You know, it's really amazing how time just really moves by pretty quick here. Yeah, it's been quite a year, a calendar year, and a lot of interesting astrology ahead. So I think it's an exciting time to be alive and be on this journey, and I'm grateful to be part of the show to talk about all of it.
Well, you know, what was hard for me to believe is it's the week before Thanksgiving, and I got to drive around today with my top down because it was like 70 degrees here.
Yeah.
So part of my exciting news, which you may or may not have seen on Facebook, after 10 years of having a car that was very identified with me, my Mustang convertible, my 2012 Club of America limited edition Mustang, after 10 years, 95,000 miles, and it was bought in Phoenix, and it traveled across the country. I made several trips, countless trips to Las Vegas from Phoenix, where I was teaching. Got retired this last week.
I saw the post. Yeah, congratulations. That's awesome.
Yeah. It's now somebody else's headache, because this is just the time when things are going to start to go wrong. And I have replaced it with a Mercedes-Benz C-Class Cabriolet convertible in electric blue with white leather seats.
Right on.
So I get to have that top down, that windscreen up, that little heater at my neck, blowing warm air if I needed it, if I wanted it, which by the end of the day, because I did take a couple of trips that could have waited, but it was too nice. I had to go out and drive today.
Yeah, it was a beautiful day. Beautiful. Amazing day.
Yep. So, I keep telling people I feel like It was like going from my teenage car to an adulting car. So, was there anything in the astrology that said it was time for Dr. Kevin to grow up? Because I hate it when that happens. But, you know, it has its rewards. And its rewards right now are sitting in my garage.
Well, it's interesting. You know, Venus is trining Uranus right now, so, you know, some sudden changes in you know, value system and things of that nature. So that certainly fits along those lines for sure.
Yeah. It's interesting because, and I know we're going to get to the astrology in just a second, but, you know, I had no intention. I had a young friend of mine who I had mentored through the business development place I was teaching, the MBA level boot camp for entrepreneurs that I taught at for years. And this young man who really wanted to start his own business in cars had got a job working at a Mustang dealership to get more experience as he was trying to build his own dream. And he was a salesman. And so I said, you know what, I'll come in and I'll let you. You're new, I'll come in. I don't really think I'm going to get a car, but, you know, who knows, blah, blah. I had no intention, and I drove that Mustang, and I bought it the same day.
Sold.
Sold. So, anyways, it's the end of an era, the beginning of a new era. And speaking of eras, what era are we in today with our astrology and our upcoming planetary influences?
Yeah, well, you know, the thing to really start with here is there's a lunar eclipse in Taurus on the 19th. And, you know, eclipses, they really usher in changes. You know, it's really sort of a major pivot point in the year for all of us. They sort of usher in the new at the time of letting go of the old. It's sort of like, you know, as you were walking along the journey of life, sometimes there's just no looking back. It's about moving forward and growing and evolving along the journey. And these eclipses really help us bring in the new energy, bring in change, and this one is doing just that. So the lunar eclipse, so it's a full moon in Taurus, and full moons are a time of fruition. It's also a time of adjustment and letting go of the things that aren't working, if that's a Mustang or whatever that is in your life. But if there's something of value that there's something to be let go of that's just no longer serving. Taurus is about our value system. It's about where you put your time, energy, and attention. And so this is a real sort of check-in point for all of us in this lunar eclipse in Taurus to really, tune in and to see what is it that I no longer need, and what's coming to fruition, what's worth hanging on to and moving forward with. And this is a really transformative lunar eclipse. The moon in Taurus is trining Pluto, so there's this really ease and flow with this deeper transformation, this sort of being willing to go into those depths and embrace the change that's being offered at this time. So this is a really transformative time, and over these next few months. And the moon's also squaring Jupiter, and Jupiter makes everything bigger and larger and more expansive in different ways. And so, again, this is a great time to let go of some, to let go of what's no longer needed. Maybe these are some old things, Taurus, possessions, but also maybe some old things that you valued, and you want to redirect your time and attention in a more fruitful way. This is a great time to really tune in and hang on to what's working and letting go of what's not. And the Taurus Scorpio, the sun is in Scorpio, and will be here for the next few days. By the time this is aired, the sun will be in Sagittarius. But the sort of polarity between Scorpio and Taurus is the sort of, we might feel in conflict in some way between self-reliancy, self-sufficiency, sort of having your own boundaries, versus Scorpio, which is the willingness to embrace help, to be very vulnerable with another person, and the need for interdependency. And so there's this sort of this push-pull between independence versus interdependence during this period of time, and there's something to be worked through with all this, this sort of paradox of energy.
So since we are pre-recording this, and it's not going to air till next week, what I would advise our listeners to do is to actually go back to this time period. And if we can get this recording out to the studio people tonight, which I'm going to try to do, they may air it before next week. It may start as early as tomorrow, because the Dr. Kevin show plays once a day, every day between the shows at different times. So when you and I do a Planetary Influence, it's played 6 more times before my next new show shows up. I don't know if you were aware of that.
Oh, right.
So they may be able to get it in before this whole thing is passed, just so people can kind of hear it and take advantage of it. But in retrospect, kind of see, if you're not hearing this until after this weekend before Thanksgiving, go back and look and see, where were your values being changed? Where were you going through any struggles of a need for standalone independence, and a draw for interdependence, and how is that playing out in your life? So I just wanted to throw that in, since this thing is happening so fast, and this is such an interesting recording of the Dr. Kevin Show. I thought I'd throw my 2 cents in on that. So
yeah, red money. The other thing I wanted to say with this is, so this full moon in Taurus is ruled by Venus. Venus is trining Uranus in Taurus. So there's some really harmonious shifts that are occurring right now. Like getting a convertible BMW, trading in these. That's like a really, it's a pretty good example of these types of energies where there's this sort of harmonious change, this beneficial departure from the past and breaking away, and this is the sort of the energy, this really harmonious ability to change where you put your time and energy, or your value system, or maybe there's some opportunities at work or in your financial world. So yeah, there's definitely some really positive aspects with this full lunar eclipse.
So 2 things I want to say. One is, with that moon squaring Jupiter, though, there may be some internal or emotional struggle around that expansion.
Yeah.
I mean,
yep.
you may find that this desire to expand may hit up against an emotional fear of something to do with that expansion, the responsibility of the expansion, or can I really take this on? Can I really make it work? But the energies overall are saying, go forward. Don't stay attached to what has been. Look at what can be. But I think that squaring aspect could have that kind of effect. Would you agree?
Absolutely.
And the other, go ahead.
No, go ahead.
Okay. And the other thing is, never call Mercy, my Mercedes-Benz convertible,
I was a
at
Mercedes.
BMW ever, never insult her again by downgrading her to a BMW.
Yeah, well, I'm sorry about that.
You know, that's all right. She'll forgive you this once, but just to say.
Yeah. Well, won't be making that mistake again. You know, this is the other thing, you know, and I think I said this quote last time was, and I forgot who said this, but, you know, there is this sort of energy about moving forward, embracing the change, being willing to move forward with this lunar eclipse in Taurus and this energy now. And there's this great quote that goes something like, "A ship is safe in harbor, but that's not what a ship is for. You know, a ship is for setting sail." And so there is this themes here with all this, particularly with relating to your value system, where you put your time and energy, money, your self-worth, all of that stuff. There's some positive shifts occurring in that area.
Absolutely. So we're going to go to our first break, and we'll be right back here on the pre-recorded Dr. Kevin Show with Rob Stewart from innercenter.org. That's innercenter.org, and we'll be right back. Welcome back to the next segment of the Dr. Kevin Show. So, Rob, tell us what else is going on in the skies these days?
Yeah, so November 22nd, the sun will be moving into Sagittarius, and Sagittarius it's really basically as the sun is moving through these different constellations, it really shines a light on different areas of life, and depending where that is in your birth chart, you can really get a sense of where this light, this focus, this awareness is being placed, where there's opportunities to really shine light on some things in life and get more clarity. And in Sagittarius, Sagittarius is about the bigger picture. It's about our beliefs, and I always, personally, I believe that atheism is as much of a belief as theism. They're just different ways of seeing the world. There's different beliefs inherent with each of those. And so when I say belief, it's really about the lens through which we see the world. That's what Sagittarius is. It's the big picture. It's the search for truth with a capital T, the big picture, top-down sort of view on things. And so as the sun is moving through Sagittarius over the next month, it's really shining a light on our beliefs. What beliefs do we have that are working for us? What are the ones that aren't doing so well? And so, as the sun's moving through this, we have opportunities to really take a look at these, at our own belief systems. Sagittarius is also about having hope, having faith, being optimistic. It's about sort of expanding our consciousness and really embracing the sort of expansion of our ideas and those types of things. It's a really intuitive energy as well. So this is a great month to sort of tune into your gut level knowing, this sort of deeper knowing and this sort of deeper understanding. And Sagittarius is also imaginative, so it's a great time to, journal about dreams, different information coming through these dreams or through intuitions. Basically it's really a time where we can really understand a bit more, how do we interpret reality, and what is it that's working for us? What about it that isn't? What is your belief? What are your beliefs? And what is your truth? Where do you want to put your time and energy and focus? These are all these Sagittarian themes. Is there anything you want to add to that, Dr. Kevin?
Well, one of the other things I would say is, Sagittarius. It is about, it's a fire sign. So there's always, there's passion involved. Spirituality, yes, but also passion. And I always look at the Sagittarius part of the flame versus the Aries part of the flame and the Leo part of the flame is that it's the part of the flame that's mutable, so it mutates. So it's the part of the flame that is like the forge energy that you can put something through and have an alchemical result on the other side. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like that.
And so the alchemical nature of the Sagittarian fire means it will burn away or it will transmute or transform the area it's playing in to some degree if you allow it. I mean, the energies will be there to do that, and to some degree, depending on the strength of the energy, it's going to happen to some degree whether you wanted to or not. On the other side of the coin, you can fight against it and make it a painful, miserable failure, and that's your choice too, and that's okay. That's a choice. I don't judge that choice. It's just not one I choose to make anymore. I've been known to make it in the past. Don't want to do it again. Know what I say? Know what I mean?
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Yeah.
So,
I mean,
yeah, so I mean, Sag is in my first house, so, I mean, it's all in my first house. My first house is like 3 degrees, the last 3 degrees of Scorpio, all 30 degrees of Sag, and the first 3 degrees of Capricorn, unless you are in the equal house system. But obviously I'm not. But so I look at it that this is the time that if I will willingly go into the fire, I will have the passion to make change. And that, I'm just applying that for people to say, well, where is my Sagittarius? Where is Sagittarius in my chart? What is the area that is most likely to be, like, where is your Sagittarius, Rob?
Yeah, mine's in my 5th house, and I don't use equal housing. So it's the same system as you. And yeah, you're right. I mean, so with the Sagittarius in the 1st, with the Sun transiting through the 1st, there's something about looking out your own beliefs in terms of what does it mean to be an individual or independent or, and like you said, that fire, there is that alchemical nature to it, and of course with any fire, but that mutable energy of Sagittarius, there's this real adaptability to sort of adapt to what's needed, and the 1st house is a great place for Sagittarius, for that fire and being able to assert and take action in those ways. So,
yeah, but Jupiter's there too, so they kind of love to play together.
Yeah, right. Yeah, Jupiter and Sag, excellent.
So that transits that little natal Jupiter of mine. It's always a good time.
Yeah, and this is the one thing to keep in mind with Sag is that to be, one of the Sagittarius energies that can occur is sort of trying to convince or convert others to your worldview. That's one of the Sag pitfalls, I guess you'd say, is feeling safe when they believe the world means the same thing that you do, rather than allowing them to believe what's true, having their truth and you having your own truth. So that's something to keep in mind over this next month, is any tendency or feeling any need to feel safe by converting or convincing others to see things the same way that you do.
Yeah, and so, and what light will it be shining on in your 5th house? I I just want people to kind of get an understanding of how this stuff works.
Yeah. No, it's great. It's great to, so fifth house is about having fun. It's about having an opinion, sharing that opinion, leaving your mark on the world. That's fifth house energy. It's about playfulness and fun, leisure, being a unique individual. The fifth house is, who are you as an individual? What's your creative expression? How do you want to perform in the world? These are fifth house types of things. And in Sagittarius, what beliefs do you have about that? What beliefs do I have about that? Are there any limiting beliefs in that area? Are there any beliefs that am I painting with too big of a brush in these areas and ignoring sort of the details? Sagittarius is sort of big picture, but sometimes we can paint a whole big picture with a huge brush and not get any of the detail. It's really a time to really look at how do you see the world? What does it mean? And for me, what does it mean to be an individual, to have my own personal expression in this world? What does that mean, and how can I bring more optimism and fun and, that sort of childlike quality into that creative process?
And it loves being there because it's the natural house of Leo. And so Sagittarius loves to play in the first, and it loves to play in the fifth. And, and I always, I was waiting for you to say the word creative. I think it's also a house where we see that this is maybe a time when you, do some kind of shift or change or put some kind of passion, pick up something that's creative, or find something new, or change something around. And so it's a great energy. For those of you out there listening going, okay, well, I wanted to know the astrology. All you guys are talking about is your chart. We want to show you how to apply this to your chart. And if you haven't ever had a chart done and you don't know where all these things are, and to understand how to use our monthly gift of planetary influences, you can go to innercenter.org. That's innercenter.org. You can reach out to Rob. Rob will happily do a chart for you, explain to you, book an appointment with him, and then every month you can tune in and hear as Rob, and you can even call in most months, tells you what's going on in the skies, and it will make more sense to you. What else is going on, Rob?
Yeah, and right on. There's something. Astrology really is a tool for self-awareness, and by tracking these things, just like you said, tracing it to your own chart, there's tremendous opportunities for more self-awareness, and it's something that I've been so important for me in my own life. And those are my clients as well. So thanks for putting that out there. So, so November 23rd through 25th, this is the Thanksgiving, lead up to Thanksgiving. The Sun and Mercury are transiting the South Node. So this is so classic. So the South Node is our conditioning. Oftentimes it represents home and family, the family that you're born into, the family of origin. And with the Sun and Mercury transiting the South Node, it's really putting a focus on our conditioning. What are our old habits? The good habits, the bad habits, the family stuff. And the sun's shining a big gold light there. Mercury's there, so there's plenty of communication, talking. Are you falling back into old habits when you visit home, family, or whatever it is for Thanksgiving? It's a time to really become aware of any of these old habits, these old conditionings that aren't helpful. Of course, there's many old habits and conditionings that are wonderful that we all have as well. And so this is an opportunity to take a look at that. This is also in Sagittarius, so it really also shines a light on any beliefs that we have, old beliefs. What are some old beliefs that are really like shoes that are too tight that you're ready to find a new pair? what are the self-limiting beliefs? This is a great time to really get more clarity on that around Thanksgiving. And
great. Go ahead.
Yeah. Any thoughts on that? That's all I had for the Thanksgiving thing. I just find it so funny, how right on Thanksgiving the Sun and Mercury are transiting the South Node. Is just so classic for this energy, the idea of family gatherings and that type of stuff.
Yep. And, I'm going to put a little word out there. If you're somebody who's gathering, and of course a lot of people didn't gather last year because of the pandemic with Thanksgiving, and I want to put out there that if you have a history of bad Thanksgivings with your families, the person or people that drink too much and become obnoxious, or the infighting, or the grudges that show up, or whatever it is, in whatever role you play, maybe that year off allowed people to come in differently. Maybe having the pandemic and not being able to, having that jolt of not the same old, you might have made different decisions this year. Maybe you decided last year that having a Thanksgiving away from all those people sounded pretty good, and you decided not to return. That's okay. But if you decide to return, remember, it's been 2 years, and in one of those years was a pandemic. And the pandemic still goes on. It's certainly not over, but it was at the height of the pandemic. And we're coming upon our first break. We'll be right back and hear more from Rob Stewart from innercenter.org.
Conscious media for conscious minds. OMTimes. Have you ever wondered how to change your love paradigm? The secret key is finding a love partnership, not just a regular connection. How do you find these? Through conscious relationships. Ascending Hearts Dating is a dating site for people like you that believes in second chances and a different type of spiritual connection. Try Ascending Hearts for free today at ascendinghearts.com and change your love paradigm. Ascending Hearts, the premier dating community for the spiritually awake.
Hello, I'm Sandy Sedgbeer, host of OMTimes magazine's flagship radio show, What is Going On? My passion is sifting through information, research, and innovations from new thought teachers, speakers, and researchers pushing back the boundaries of what we know about life, energy, metaphysics, and the universe. I love shifting perceptions about who we are, why we're here, and how quickly impossible becomes normal when we open our minds, expand our awareness, and accept that the only limits that exist are those we place upon ourselves. So if you're the kind of forward-thinking, eager investigator of what lies beyond the current reality that most perceive, why not make a date to come play with me in the field of possibilities at 4 p.m. Pacific Time, 7 p.m. Eastern Time every Thursday, and together we can discover what's really going on.
Coping-19, brought to you by CDC and the Ad Council.
If you're feeling increasingly lonely right now, you're not alone. It's totally normal. Even though we may not be able to get together in person, connecting virtually with friends and family still gives you a chance to interact with people and may help raise your spirits. Join a virtual book club, set up group text chats, or online video coffee breaks with coworkers.
Find more self-care and coping tips at coping-19.org.
So, Rob, any thoughts on what I said about coming into Thanksgiving with some new eyes?
Yeah, I think I think there's some really good insight right there, and definitely, really good things to think about. New eyes, new intentions, and all that. Absolutely. And December 4th, we have a solar eclipse, a new moon in Sagittarius, and so after visiting family, friends, etc. on Thanksgiving, and shining some light and using new eyes and visiting home or family or friends and visiting perhaps some old habits, good and bad, this solar eclipse on December 4th is an opportunity to set new intentions, and, you know, really connect with what's the big vision. You know, take a wide lens. What in life, how do you see the world? And how do you want to live according to that larger vision? So maybe, you know, reflecting on Thanksgiving and all these any old things that show up. But this is a time to really set those intentions, be optimistic, and, you know, allow yourself to align yourself with those beliefs for a better world. These are all Sagittarian themes. This is, you know, new moons are a time to really quietly reflect, quietly set intentions, and really, you know, put that vision board together and sort of put your best foot forward. And that in Sagittarius, it's about the big picture, about your vision for the world, your beliefs, and bringing more optimism, adventure, and your own truth to the story. So that's the solar eclipse, December 4th.
Well, it also, with it being a solar eclipse in Sagittarius, may mean that it's a time in which you, by letting go of those old limiting belief systems, those old eyes, that you also, in forging a new pathway, may decide to pursue some kind of higher education. It's a time when you may decide whether it's an official, formal, I'm going to go get my master's or my doctorate, or I've always wanted to do this, or just engage in a course of study that you've never made time for. You've had the old limiting belief system that you don't have enough time for everybody else and yourself, and yourself gets shortchanged, and that may be a limiting belief system you change. But with it being in Sagittarius, it could indicate a time also that you want to travel. You may decide that, you know, I'm going to wait till I retire to see the world. Well, God, I may be a greeter at Walmart until I'm 80. How much energy am I going to have to see the world? I'll be blind with Coke bottle glasses on a walker trying to enjoy Paris. Hell with that. I'm going now. So yeah. I think that it can speak of that higher self and higher belief systems, but it's Sagittarius. You could get it could get either one of those bugs too. Agree?
Yeah, no, absolutely, 100%. And, you know, in addition to those things you just mentioned, Uranus is squaring Saturn during this new moon, and also the Sun and the Moon, and the Sun and the Moon, which are conjunct, they're making a quincunx to Uranus. So Uranus represents freedom from the known, embracing unexpected change. So there's something like shaking off the old with this, and maybe it can be electrifying. It can be a sort of electrifying shaking away of old conditioning, old ways of seeing things, old things. So, you know, this is, like you said, a time of new beginnings in all ways, and in those ways you're talking about, and there's some real unexpectedness that this new moon brings.
Now, the only caution here for everybody is wherever Sagittarius is showing up and illuminating and moving you in some kind of way, and all of these other things are going on, Sagittarius comes with a decided lack of tact. It is well known for its bluntness, to just kind of throw the truth right out there. That didn't offend you, did it? Well, it's a little late now, right?
Yeah.
So, as you're shaking things off and you're making discoveries, before you share those discoveries with people that they may impact, you might want to just take a deep breath and say, what is the kindest way I can say this? because your discovery may make you have a tendency to blurt things out, which then can create a few messes that have to be cleaned up. Would you say that's fair, Rob?
Yeah, I would say that's very fair, very, very wise.
Okay, what else do you have in that exciting box you call the universe?
Yeah, well, so I'm looking at the week of December 7th through the December 14th. This is a really interesting week. And December, the second half of December, very interesting period of time. But December 7th till the 14th, we've got a lot of action in the solar system. We have Mercury square Neptune on the 7th, Mars square Jupiter on the 8th. Venus is conjunct Pluto during this. The Sun is square Neptune, and we have Mercury and Mars going into new signs. And we also have Mars conjunct the South Node. So there's something here about deep, intense passions during this time. This is a time where I fully expect, just from the astrology side of things, I'm not a financial advisor, but market volatility. Without question, based on the astrology, we'll see what happens in the real world. I'm not a financial, this is not financial advice. Please consult your financial advisor. But the sort of metaphors, the archetypes of these planets suggest there might be some tremendous market volatility. But also, Venus rules relationship. So this is sort of a deeply intense, passionate time. There's, it's sort of like the power of love and obsessive attraction even. And there's also this sort of rose-colored glasses energy here too, with Neptune making some aspects to Mercury and the Sun. So this is a time of exuberant action. There's lots of action occurring. There's probably lots of big headlines, maybe different belief systems or competing belief systems that are occurring in the headlines. But big action, big intense passion, and, maybe there's even some risk-taking. This is sort of, there's a lot of Sagittarian energy here as well. And, Mars would be conjunct the South Node during this period of time. And that's saying that maybe we're acting from some old habits. But they don't have to be bad habits. They can be good habits that we have polished and refined over time. But there's also the possibility of acting from some old habits or some old thinking that is stuck in the system, so to speak. So this is the time to just take it slow, to be grounded, be aware that sometimes what we see in the world is what we want to see and not necessarily what is true. And with Neptune, that's a real theme of the possibility of looking at life through rose-colored glasses and seeing what we want to see versus what truly is there. So, it's an interesting week astrologically, and I expect some, the headlines and things to sort of match some of these themes.
Well, one of the things that strikes me as Mars is conjuncting the South Node is it's in opposition to the North Node.
Yep.
And it is a cautionary tale to me of don't let your stuckness in what has been prevent you in your becoming of what you're here to be. And I kind of look at that when you have, it's funny because you did everything in all the cases from the South Node perspective, and I'm fine with that. But anything that's doing something to the South Node, as you and I both know, it's doing something to the North Node. And I just kind of felt like that Mars gives power and energy to holding on to that which no longer serves you in your becoming.
Right on. Yeah.
That can be a play out there. And that's because it's in that opposition with the North Node. And so, to me, that's saying the world is coming to you and asking you to either be in alignment with who you've presented yourself to be, or is asking you to do something that you are quite capable, it's clearly that you're capable to do or be here, but it's going to strike your desire to hold on to what is familiar and comfortable instead of taking the risk of moving forward. And, and we have several other aspects that are saying be risky, take chances, be unpredictable, go out there. But these aspects are also talking about some kind of internal struggle that's all about what's going on within you, more so. Many of these aspects are more about what's going on within you than with you and the world. Does that make sense?
Yeah, right on. Absolutely.
Yeah. So anyway.
Yeah.
So
I mean, the only last thing, I know we're almost out of time here. The only last thing, should we talk about Venus retrograde real quick? Or how are we doing on time?
When does Venus go retrograde? Why don't we, because Venus will be retrograde for a bit. When does it actually go retrograde?
December 19th, so it is towards our next show next month. So it aligns well with that for sure for next time. But it's just a time when reviewing what you value, self-worth, your relationships. It's a time for reassessing, reviewing old things. It can be brought up and reviewed and worked through and all of that stuff. So it's something that only happens once every 3 years, and the last time we had that was in the fall of 2018.
So, and it's retrograde where?
It is in, I believe it's in Capricorn. Let's see.
So, we'll talk about this much more extensively on our next show. You get a month to figure out where in your chart that's going to be hitting you the most. And, one of the things I always like to point out about retrogrades is it's the appearance of it being retrograde in the sky also means it's the time it is closest to the Earth. So so retrogrades are powerful because if we look at it from a perspective of when you bring something up close, there's going to be more energy to it. So, on that note, depending on when this plays, you may be hearing this the first time and eating Thanksgiving dinner. You may be hearing this before Thanksgiving. If they get it out into the cycle, don't wait to air it as a new show next week, but just put it out as soon as they can take this recording and put it into the show model. So if you haven't had Thanksgiving, have a great Thanksgiving. Make sure you look at everybody with new eyes and decide what's important with you. Rob, big Thanksgiving plans for you?
Gonna visit some family and I wish everyone happy Thanksgiving and to enjoy those new eyes and new intentions.
And as we move forward, we must always also be leaving behind. Namaste from the Dr. Kevin Show, and may you all be well.
Thanks for having me on, Dr. Kevin. Happy Thanksgiving, everybody.